could hear it.
Now I can hear you.
You can hear me now.
Yes.
But I'm frustrated. Hello? Still echoing.
A little echoey.
Yeah. So if I mute, you can't hear anything.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. We're going to start the first item, and it's just going to have to be echoey, I guess. Maybe we can sort this out. This is not fun. Dan, will you present on the first item?
Sure. It's great if you're all ready. I'm Dan Tinkham. Some of you may remember me from a few months back. We met to talk about test well drilling for the town of Exeter as part of a groundwater exploration project we've conducted over the last couple of years. And we did some recent test well drilling over on the Smith-Page conservation parcels, which many of you are familiar with, of course, accessing through the Dunbar parcel, just to the west of that property. So that test well drilling is now complete. Now I have an echo.
Oh, shit.
But we have another site that we'd like to consider while we're in the exploratory test well drilling phase, and that is on the Morissette conservation parcel between Linden and Court Streets. And it's an area that the town has protected, and it's got the open land necessary for a public water supply well. And we have, some reason to believe that there may be favorable aquifer deposits underneath the fine grain deposits that we see on the surface out there. So we've done some preliminary walking around and mapping in the area, and come tonight to ask your permission to conduct some exploratory test borings on the Morissette parcel. I don't know if everybody has the map or.
Seen it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, does everybody have the map?
The public can't see it.
Okay.
Yes.
If that's true, then we're proposing to come in off of Linden Street through the tube gate that's there, set back off the road, and the drill rig and the trailer would park at right at that entrance. I don't think there's enough room outside the gate, so we may have to park just inside the gate. Stay on the access road all the way down to the field. This would be on a track rig, drilling rig, followed by a small rubber track water buggy, we call it, that transfers water back and forth from the truck to the drilling rig. So a couple of weeks ago, I went out there with a wetland scientist from our parent company, GZA, and we identified the wetlands that were close to the proposed route of entry and the test well drilling sites themselves. And we did identify one area along the western edge of the field that was classified as wetland soils. So we made sure our test well drilling targets were outside that area. And the proposed route of entry, as you enter the field in the northwest corner, we proposed doing just a long loping loop right to the middle of the field, and then back over towards the southwest corner of the field. And that way avoiding that entire area of wetland soils, kind of stay on just a little bit of the highland soils. And then proceed to install the first of the 3 wells would be in the kind of the southeastern target. It would be right on the edge of the field. Try to tuck away out of the way of any kind of tractors. I understand you do cut out there every third year or so on a third of the property for the field. So we propose kind of tucking that up against the tree line as best we can. Proceed with the test well drilling, which is basically entails driving a piece of 4-inch steel casing vertically downward through the overburden material, stopping wherever we care to, and evacuating the material that's inside that steel casing, then reaching down with a sampler to figure out exactly what type of material we are in at every particular depth. And in so doing, we kind of come up with what we call a stratigraphy of the overburden materials and try to identify materials that are favorable for groundwater resource development. Once we complete the boring and we have an idea of what the materials are, we would, if it's favorable, we would install a test well there, and that would be a 3-inch diameter piece of PVC pipe that is lowered down inside the 4-inch steel casing with an interval of screen, which is PVC pipe with a whole bunch of slots cut in to allow the water from the formation to come into the well. And then the 4-inch steel that we created the boring with is slowly removed from the ground, exposing the screen to the formation, and that's our completed well. And once we have that PVC well installed, a 4-inch diameter protective standpipe is put around the PVC with a locking cap on it to protect the well, and that can be painted or not, depending if you want it to be visible or not. And then once the drill rig has left the site, we'd go out there with a development device that removes the fine material from the screen, put a pump in the ground, and see if we were successful in identifying a favorable aquifer deposit. And that would probably happen within a week of the actual test well drilling process. And once we're done with that, we collect a water sample, and then we're gone. And we go back to the office and try to determine whether that's going to be an effective place for a possible production well. And then we come back to you and say, okay, this is interesting. We have something that we're interested in or not interested in, and then Public Works would make a selection of a favorable area in town. Maybe it's this one, maybe it's somewhere else, and then say, okay, what's the next step? How do we move forward here if we want to put a production well? Are there any deed constraints, wetland issues? So that's where the process would go from there. But right now, we're just trying to see if the aquifer's there, and if it's not there, we simply don't build a well. We backfill the hole with the cuttings, and the rig moves on. So the one site that you see out in the woods there is probably about 250 feet into the woods. We may drill that a little closer to the field because there's kind of a sinuous pathway in the woods there where I can bring a rig in without having to cut very many trees. There's a couple 2 to 4 inch diameter trees that we probably would have to cut down. May not make it all the way into the target, but that is not interfering with the existing trail system that goes through there. That kind of does a loop around past our test well, but it does not actually cross the route of the drill rig. So we would stay away from the existing trail network completely. And then when we're done drilling that well, we would simply back out to the field and do the same loop back to the road. I expect this to be a 2-day drilling process. So we probably leave the truck and trailer out there overnight at the entrance. Be in there for about 8 hours a day, and then on the end of the second day, we pack up and leave town, honestly. So there should be nothing left behind other than maybe a few tracks. We're hoping for a little colder weather. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. The drill rig is available next week, perhaps. We might be able to bring it in there at the end of next week. So it's unlikely there'll be snow cover at that time. And if there's any soil that's kind of kicked up on the corners, because it's a track vehicle, when it turns, the tracks turn in opposite directions, so it sometimes kicks up material on the turns, and we'll just try to flatten those out as best we can and rake them. And usually after a winter, there's very little left of those, no sign of the actual ingress. So That's about it in a nutshell. I don't know if there's any more questions anybody has about the process, or if anybody's been out the Smith page and seen where we did track in and track out and have any concerns, please let me know. Other than that, I think I will address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dan. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, I think we got our Zoom situation figured out. That's good.
Oh, great. Yeah, sounds great. No echo.
Oh, good. Okay, we have questions. Go for it, Bill.
Okay.
Dan, the red line or maroon line that comes in there is sort of your path for coming in. Does it have to go out to the middle of the field, or can it come up alongside the edge of the field?
Well, if you look along the edge of the field, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it would seem that you could just come in, there's a cut there, and you can come in alongside where the edge of the field would be. It would be a little less stuff trampled.
Yeah, that was the intention originally until I took the wetland scientist out there. But you can see right along the western edge of the field there's a small blob of wetland soils that was mapped. So the reason for looping out into the field is simply to avoid those wetland soils.
We
So we
have
thought
some
better to stay on the high ground.
Yeah, if it's frozen, that wouldn't be too bad. We do have some wildflowers we planted over the last couple of years, and I wouldn't like to see them dug up too deep.
Yeah, sure.
What happens if you find water there? What kind of a device gets put in on a well? If it goes well and we've got gushing water coming out and town's going to just be swamped with good water, what kind of a gadget gets put in there?
Hey, first of all, I'd celebrate, so that'd be good news. Yeah, down the road, the 3-inch exploratory test well would remain in place, and we do our testing on that. And then, like I said, if we meet with Public Works and they decide, yeah, this is an area they'd like to go after, the long-term production well would be a much larger diameter well, probably something like 12 to 18 inches in diameter. So in order to install a production well like that, you need a much bigger machine. Then you bring in a rubber tire vehicle, a large truck with a support truck, and it would put probably would be an 18-inch diameter hole in the ground all the way down to your screened interval. And then you'd build most likely a 12-inch well inside that 18-inch hole. And if it went to production...
Is there a structure on top of it? Is there a structure on top?
Oh, there does not have to be a structure right at the wellhead. There most likely would be, if nothing, say the casing is coming out of the ground, you could just put a well cover on it with usually a cement pad around it just for sanitary protection. And then usually there's an electrical cutoff box there, but the actual pump station, depending on the chemistry of the water and the volume of the water, the pump station itself can be off-site, or it could be at the entrance on Linden Street, for instance. There's a lot of way to engineer the actual building, rather than having to put it right on top of the wellhead. That's
good. Thank you.
Yeah. They'd probably want to put a fence around it too. That's pretty common to have some kind of a fence to keep people away from the wellhead.
A couple of questions. Hi. Good evening. You've done some exploratory well at the Smith Page and also at White's Meadow, down off of Linden Street and Court Street by the river there.
Yes.
How much? Have you determined how much volume potential well would have in either of those places?
Yeah, we do have a single well, test well, that we left in out at on the White parcel, and it's not very favorable, honestly. We did 3 borings out there, I should say. We built 1 well, and it was we did get some water out of it right at the bedrock surface, but there's not a thick aquifer, so it's not what we would consider favorable. And over on Smith Page, we drilled 3 deep borings and intercepted a lot of clay. This is an area of the marine clay, which many of you may know, and it went down to as much as 130 feet of clay, and we never did intercept an aquifer below that. And we also did some drilling on the Phillips Exeter land on the west side of Drinkwater Road. And so now we have some idea where the aquifer that we knew existed on the south end of Drinkwater Road, the southeast end, also exists on the southwest end, but not on the north. So the test well borings we put in on Smith Page were disappointing, but it kind of focused us in. Now we know there's no aquifer basically on the east side of Drinkwater Road up in that area. So,
Because this particular property, the Morris said, is on the edge of a pretty significant aquifer. If you look at the maps, and so it's always been, I've always felt, and I always talked to DPW, that this might be a possibility of another well because of it. You know, it's on the edge of an aquifer, and it's a rather low and wet spot, and you got a little river that goes through there on the that being on the northern side.
Yeah, the north side.
Right direction. But I know in the past, some of the wells produce somewhere around 300 to 500 gallons per minute. Is that a minimum amount of volume that would make for a successful well? Is there a volume limit? Minimum. Because I know.
I think generally we'd like to see 300 gallons a minute is probably a good low number. I mean, a couple hundred is nothing to sneeze at, so they might be interested.
I know Larry Lane.
For anything less than that, the cost per unit of volume wouldn't be worth it. Yeah.
I mean, it would if you're successful in finding a good aquifer and water there. I mean, from a town's perspective and from a financial perspective, you're a very short distance to pipe that over to the Larry Lane plant. So
Absolutely.
I mean, from a financial perspective and a distribution, it would be an ideal location because the line goes right down Court Street up Larry Lane.
No question.
So that's a big plus. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Good questions and comments. Yeah.
Just one real quick one. What would be the expected depth of the test wells?
Well, that's a good question. I'm hoping they're in the 40 to 60 foot range. I don't think they'll be deeper than that, although there's many places in Exeter where it is deeper. Here I know there's glacial till exposed to the south, probably within a couple thousand feet. So I think if we got to 60 feet, we'd be pretty happy out here. And if it's a little more than that, great. The big unknown out here is the type of material. We know we're going to be going through these fine-grained deposits laid down by the little river, the alluvium, on top of what was, I'm sure, marine silts and clays. And then the big question is what's below that clay? And we're certainly hoping that it's an aquifer, just like you see over at the Gilman well and the Stadium well and the Larry Lane well.
One other question on your figure, Dan. You have PVC well, yellow dot marked in 3 places. What are those?
I'd love an answer to that question. I asked Kristen about it, and nobody really knows at least that we know of. We suspect, or Kristen has suspected that it might be left over from maybe a high school product when the high school used this athletic fields.
I think many, many years ago, the high school, we're talking about needing some significant renovation or expansion of the high school. And that area down around Morrisette was looked at in that search. And I think what happened is they tried to find out where the wet areas, where the wetlands, the buildable portions of the parcel. So I think we put in, or somebody working with the school department and the consultants put in PVC wells to determine water,
Seasonal high water
tables.
Huh.
So those have probably been in there since, about the year 2000. Been in there for 20 years, roughly, because I think the new high school was built in 2003, 2004. So so I think that's what those are.
We suspect
I can tell you by the locations.
I didn't try to sound them.
Yep. That's exactly what they are. They were established as test wells for testing for groundwater.
So it's slightly
I didn't see any records of those. I'd love to know how deep they are, but those are records I couldn't locate anywhere.
Huh. I can.
One of them has screening above the ground surface.
I can look into that. We don't always have good records, as Dan knows. By we, I mean DES doesn't always have good records.
One of them has a screen actually above ground, so I suspected it was just, a 5-foot piece of screen that was put in a shallow test boring,
Yeah.
on top of the.
They weren't very deep.
Yeah, they were probably all very shallow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're successful and we want to put a production well here, I'll definitely clean those out and test them and see if we can use them for monitoring locations, because we'll need to do that if we get to that phase.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Allison?
Yeah, I have a quick question. You had mentioned that all of the borings will be out of the wetland. It does look like your little pin on the map is in the wetland. Is that just a function of the size of that little map icon?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I made the well symbol too large. Yeah, it's very close to it. It's probably within 10 feet. Honestly, I don't know why it's not wetlands there, but I tested the soils and it was fine. It was actually in a little low spot. But I assume these are like old meander channels when the Little River was at a higher elevation. So I think there's some sandy layers that kind of meander through the other fine grained material. So that the well is actually outside. And if we were going to drill that well, I'd approach it from the north and avoid all the wetlands.
Okay, that was my next question, since the line doesn't go directly to it.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to do the southern two all first and see if there's an aquifer there. And that may be all I do. I may not even go to the third one, but it's an option.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
So I know we had this discussion for the other sites as well, but we feel that this is in compliant with the deed.
Kristen, do you have any opinions on the deed? I think it is. Dan, have you reviewed the deed?
It didn't seem like there was any conflict.
Yeah, I did, and I don't believe there's any conflict. Well,
Yeah.
I've interpreted these deeds differently than other people's.
Yeah, I didn't feel like there was any conflict. I just wanted to make sure we brought it up.
Yeah.
Certainly at the test well drilling phase, I don't think there is. In terms of, if we wanted to put a long-term production well there might be a deeper dive into that.
Okay, good. I am not going to vote on this subject, so if someone else wants to make a motion on,
What were our motion options again?
they can.
Am I a voting member tonight? I guess I have to be. Huh?
I'm going to abstain from this one, so you can vote if you would like.
7. Okay. I guess nobody at home can vote, so.
Yeah, I think we need to be in person to vote.
Right. Okay.
And we're going to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
So we'll go down the line, but we're not there yet. We still,
Well, waiting for the motion.
Well, I'll make the motion. We've reviewed this proposal and feel the activity is in compliance with the terms of the deeds as proposed, and that the activity is in compliance with the conditions with the terms of the deeds as noted. Oh, I'm sorry. Skip that second part. Strike the whole thing. We have reviewed this proposal and feel the activity is in compliance with the terms of the deed as proposed.
I'll second that.
any other further comments? Okay, seeing none, why don't we do a roll call? Does that, each person says their name and then how they want to vote? And then we-
Or you can call them out.
You can call them.
Okay, I'll call it out. Dave Short,
Yes.
Bill Campbell,
Yes.
Trevor Matera,
Yes.
Andrew Koff. I'm not voting. Don
Clement.
Clement.
Yes. Kyle Welsh.
Kyle Welsh.
Yeah.
And Tom Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess, Dan, let's please be in touch with Kristen about the timing. Maybe if anyone's interested,
Absolutely.
you can go out, check it out. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let Kristen know for sure, and we'll be coordinating with Matt Berube at Public Works about getting through the gate. Assuming Public Works is the key to that gate off Linden Street for the sewer access.
All right.
All right, very good.
Have a good access point off of Linden Street.
Yeah, it is a good site. Yeah, we wish you luck. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Night.
Good night.
All right, we did it, a virtual presentation. Yet another type of meeting we have here, just when we thought we'd mastered all this.
We're just taking strides here. We are ahead of our time.
Okay, the second item, we have property management. Dave, do you want to talk about the beaver deceiver?
Not much to say.
Not much to say?
It's working great. It was within a matter of a day or two. The water level was down. It's maintaining itself. And there's plenty of water in there for beavers, so yeah, worked out great.
The beaver's been properly deceived.
So far.
So sorry, I hope they're not watching tonight. Cat's out of the bed.
But kind of as a side note too, up in the industrial park at the Circle, what is the reason for continually ripping out the dam that the beaver keep building there?
So,
I think I know.
way back, there was concern that water, when that pond level raises, the water backs up and overflows and basically floods towards Stockbridge Funeral Home. And so there was an agreement between the town of Exeter and the property, I don't know if it was just Stockbridge or it's Stockbridge and other property owners, that the town would maintain that free of.
So there's a channel that goes around the back?
It's lower elevation, supposedly. I've not been out there, but what I have been told is it's lower elevation and it poses a.
Yeah, because Stockbridge is about 30 feet below the circle elevation. So that would make sense, but I'm just kind of curious about what path the water could take to get there.
Yeah, I've not walked it.
I'll go check that out.
I know Carlos went out and he had a different opinion.
Yeah.
But.
It seems like a shame to continually.
I agree. I would love to work with we've talked about that, but I would love to work with the property owner out there to install a leveling mechanism because it makes sense for many reasons.
Oh, Shaftmaster wouldn't care.
Would it be Shaftmaster?
Yeah, I think he owns that.
Could be, yeah. We can check the tax maps.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah, that was the reason, because it diverted the water, so the water being diverted to go Norris Brook and diverted to, I can't remember the name of the brook. Watson. And it literally took out the culvert there on the drive, the industrial drive there, I'm not sure. And it flooded Stockbridge significantly.
But the culvert was, a larger one was then put in, wasn't it?
I think it was kind of an undersized culvert, so I think they put in a larger culvert.
Yeah, because there was a big, did it end up in a lawsuit or no?
Yeah, I believe there was some legal things going on.
Yeah, because Dan, it seemed like once a year was getting flooded out.
Yeah, he was significant. But this particular one flood was particularly significant, I think.
Yeah.
When it took the culvert out. Yeah, but
it'd be interesting to see.
Suffering problems before.
It'd be interesting to see what level the water would have to get to if in fact there is a pathway back there for it to actually make the run down there. But I'll check that out. Okay.
yeah, it might be a good project for next year, sort of piggybacking on this project.
Well, I'm thinking more even,
Or-
is it even going to be necessary to do anything?
Could we just,
I'm just going to hike around out there and just see what Carlos was looking
Yeah,
at.
and touch bases with DPW because they were involved in this. I'm not sure who it would have been at that time.
Yeah.
Because they,
It's Jay Perkins.
the state was too, yeah.
Well, Jay and I talked about, I actually had the guy who put the beaver deceiver in the Oaklands take a look at this at the same time. And I mentioned it to Jay also. But the beaver seemed to they took like a couple 3 months off from building in there. I thought maybe they had gone away. But then I just noticed this weekend there's a dam going back in again. So, okay, not to get off topic.
no, that's a good update. All right. Rains, do we want to talk about?
Sure, just by way of an update, so we had the archaeologists out there again for the Phase 1B, which is the more detailed archaeological survey where they do test pits and sample to see if they find any artifacts. I don't have the full report yet, and I'll share it when I do, but they did report back that there was a low, I think they call it a low incident of artifacts there, and so they feel like we are satisfied now. We don't need to do any mitigation or anything further, which is really helpful in terms of potential future repairs at Rains Barn.
Great.
So John never threw anything out, huh?
Yeah. So, I believe the report will definitely come before the end of the year. And so you should get a copy of that at the January meeting.
When
But
did
it's good
the
news.
grant announcements come?
It's supposed to be today, but I did not see an announcement yet.
Okay.
The statewide announcement yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be forthcoming. So
Yes.
we'll talk more about that shortly, hopefully. Is there any other, did we not have an event out there?
So we had booked a wreath making event where people would need to register for it, but we did not get any registrations.
Okay.
So we ended up canceling it.
Okay,
It happened to be on a weekend where there were like 2 other wreath making workshops, so I think it was unfortunate timing.
oh no.
But, yeah.
Okay, well, that's too bad, shucks. It's tough times for our events, with everything, but there's always next year.
Yep.
All right, the ash borer research, did you want to update us on that?
Yeah, so we heard from the UNH researcher, Todd Johnson, who's doing the emerald ash borer research out at the Little River Conservation Area. They only sampled 35, or only removed to sample 35 of the 50 trees that you approved them to do. So they have said that they've asked if they could just extend that approval until next year. So they anticipate doing additional sampling next year, still within what you already approved. And since it was the same concept, I talked with Drew and we felt that was sufficient. There was not a need for them to come back for formal extension.
Okay, excellent.
Great.
Anything else with trails? Any other trail issues, trail maintenance? Things we want to talk about? Do we have any lumber? Do we have a stockpile still?
We have some sitting down,
Up in Oaklands?
down below the 85 parking lot. What, and some of that was also hauled.
About the tunnel, there's some, I think it's 6x6s, like big long ones.
Yeah.
And then down, if you go down the hill from the tunnel towards the Oaklands lot, there's more planking kind of thing.
For that bridge and for the work in
It's
there?
not assigned to anything at the moment.
I think it was just left over from the other bridges that were built.
Okay.
A related question, how are we doing on the budget? And last year we bought lumber at this point because we had money in the budget. Is that something we should consider? Are we still under, I don't want to give too much money back to the town. I love the town.
So we don't have any surplus funds. We'll have expended by the end of the year, when all contracts and
Right.
purchases are done, we will have expended all of the Conservation Commission budget.
Do we have a lot in the budget to spend?
No, it's all
No,
obligated.
we're all, I asked the same question, Bill. It's a good question, and we're,
It's all earmarked.
because of some of this Rains Farm work and other things,
Okay.
we've expended our budget,
Oh,
which
good.
is very good news,
Yeah.
in my opinion. We
We
spent
haven't
our
had
money.
we haven't had a treasurer's report in a little bit.
Yes, and that's my fault. I did go through the training, and so now I'm able to get the treasury information to Dave Short, so we can
Okay.
get on a regular basis for that.
Well, it's about time.
I know, I apologize,
Just
but
curious.
that's a
Okay.
good point.
Great.
So is there a need to remove that wood from the trail, or are there plans for it?
Well, we've been, the idea's been thrown around of moving it up to, when you come out of the tunnel, and then you're heading back over towards, say, the top of Hamburger Hill.
Yep.
There was that low area that we went around a few years ago, but the bypass has never really been a good trail. So there's been some thought given to try to reestablish that one, which was
The original?
abandoned because of some of the low areas, and utilizing the wood for that. And it just hasn't happened yet. So.
There's definitely a couple of places south of 101 that are in disrepair. Not all of it's on conservation land. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the trail's name, but the one Dean's Drain runs along 85.
Yeah.
There's one place where it's always, maybe 50% of the time it's a river. It's definitely a river right now. And it's just a little down and then up. It's never been an official bridge before, but it certainly could use it because people try to like fill that area in with like sticks and stuff like that, logs, and it just kind of blocks it and makes it more of a mess. And then there's another place right on the gas line where it's very muddy and people have kind of cobbled together sort of a bridge, and it's in all different states of kind of repair. But people kind of, it's in such bad shape that people don't really use it. They go around it and it's just kind of a mess. But
Are you talking about the connector that comes?
it goes, it's across the gas line towards.
Yeah, it's the connector from, say, for argument's sake, call it from the midway point of Accelerator
Yep.
to the bottom of that trail that heads up to the green trail.
Yes, and there's a
Yeah.
trail map right there.
Yeah, that ditch, yeah, you're right,
So that would be about a 20-foot bridge that, I don't know, if you wanted to look for a place that repairs could be done to the existing trail system, there's definitely some that could be fixed, I guess.
Dean's Dream wouldn't be a bad idea. You're right, actually both of them.
That would be about a 12-foot long bridge probably, that just to,
Yeah. It's not much, because the water flow probably is only this wide.
right.
But, yeah, and once you span it, that'd be a good one. That and, well, if you want, we can take a look at those two and,
Yeah,
If that one's on private property, I guess we would need to contact. I am sure we have some contact information for, is it still Dean?
yeah.
Yeah.
I can go see her. She's always been very cooperative in the past about trees down, cutting them up and stuff like that. So I don't think that'd be an issue.
At one point, Dave, I know I looked at, or we talked about, there was sort of a map and list of trail maintenance activities, included fixing some bridges and rerouting some trails and maybe closing some trails, and it might be, I don't know where the state of that list, that might be something we need to bring back in front of the commission or subcommittee.
Was there still a trails committee?
There hasn't been a Trails Committee meeting in some time. Yeah, a Trails Committee, if we want to do that.
I mean, by and large, they're all in pretty good shape. There's been a couple rogue trails that have popped up that I've closed down. But like I said a few meetings ago, most of the trail building that's been taking place has been taking place on private land.
Yeah, up in the northern part of Oakland.
That, and then over to the west of the industrial circle.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's where most of the activity has been taking
Yeah,
place.
well, I still think there's opportunities on our land to improve the trail network. So I don't know how we most
Yeah, I do still
efficiently
have
go
that
about
list.
this.
I do still have that list. I think quite a few
That was like
of the things
4 or 5
on that,
years ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
or 3 maybe. I think quite a few
No,
of
this
those
was
things.
this year, I swear.
Oh, then that's a different one.
There was one, we were looking at that area off the Red Trail in Oaklands where there's interfingering of several trails as it heads to the northwest side of Oakland.
Oh, as you're going out towards Demoralizer and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a rat's nest through there.
Yeah, so I know I brought that one up, and I think that was on the list and amongst some other trails. So I know it's not 3 years old. I think it was this year, if my memory serves me, but.
Well, I have it. We could bring it back if you
Yeah.
want. And step through it. I think it makes sense to have an active list going so that we can prioritize projects.
Yeah, and I know we have some new folks on the commission and want to make sure we're all, if people have energy to do trail work, that we jump on that, because
Well,
I'm psyched
I feel
about
like
trail.
from watching what's happened on the north side of 101 on the private property, there's a very active group that if a need is made known, is more than willing to step up and do the volunteer work to get it done. I was a part of that did the trail up from Oakland where they put the new planks in last spring, and I mean there was probably 20 people there. It's a pretty incredible amount of work done.
Yeah, it is incredible, the resource that we're lucky to have all that.
And talented, got people, people that actually knew what they were doing. It was nice.
Yeah, they just sent about 15 or 16 people over to Stratham Hill for trail work.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess one other area of concern is there's another existing bridge right when you come out of the trestle lot and then take a right. And if you walk across it, it's wobbly now, and it's definitely starting to rot. It's got a little bit of turn in the middle.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? You come out of the
Yeah,
trestle lot.
I know what you mean. I think I know that one.
Was that that's the one of the number bridges, isn't it? It's got the brand in it that they routed number into it, because we did that, 17 years ago, put those, it's a decked bridge, right?
No, this is the one you come out of the trestle lot and you take your immediate right, and then you kind of go, and then you take a right and you go down a hill that has some kind of drops, and then there's a bridge right there that goes across the stream.
Oh, the one that used to be the greasy log.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But now it's just a flat, somebody planed a piece of wood.
Yeah, it's one of those old pieces of hemlock or something, and
anyways.
Yeah, it's
not going to last much longer.
No, that I agree, and also when you get just past that there's some pretty massive divots in between roots and stuff like that. It'd be nice to kind of just get that a little smoother also. So yeah, there's what,
Well, maybe
4 or
there's
5, 6
some things we could email or jam on and try and prepare for another meeting or Trails Committee
Yeah.
type meeting. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if it's worth talking what the best forum for it is. It doesn't, I don't think it necessarily needs to be in front of the whole commission unless we're making decisions.
Well, bring back recommendations to the commission.
Yeah, we should bring back,
That's what we should be doing.
yeah.
You know, a subgroup or whatever you want to call it.
Kind of along those lines, I was reached out to by Phillips Exeter Academy. They're interested in planning for they do like an Earth Day. I don't think it's actually on Earth Day, but, you know, a student support project.
Well, like last year, they carried all that wood down.
Yep, and so
down
they're
for us.
interested in thinking about something like that again for next year, so.
There's always pulling invasives.
Yeah.
They love that.
Well, Carlos is going to come back for that. Carlos is going to come
He's
back.
got-
He's gonna come back.
But he needs a group of people around.
The ones he missed.
Oh, we missed Carlos.
Sure do.
Okay, so we'll figure out trails for next year, trail priorities for next trail, or now. I mean, now it's actually probably a good time to do trail work. Any outreach events we want to plan?
So I know we had talked about doing some open barn days at Rains Farm. So we offer cocoa in the barn, and there's just free play in the fields over the next couple months. And I think that will tie in well as an opportunity for members of the public to come and tour the barn so that they have a sense before town meeting what that warrant article could be addressing. So I'd like to do at least one before then, maybe 2. But that's really all we have. We had in prior years a lantern festival out at Rains, but the winter solstice is the 18th, so it's kind of short planning for that. But that doesn't mean we can't have a similar type event at some point later in the year. So those are kind of the only 2 things that are being talked about so far.
What about the party when the grant is received?
Yeah. I don't know. Are you hosting one?
I figured somebody would.
You can all come to Dover.
Yeah, I was thinking about, some sort of holiday party. I guess for the time being, I was not gonna do that because of COVID, but we certainly could do something. And I don't know how people feel, but
Well, COVID right now is at high fever pitch.
yeah, that was my sense.
The less,
Maybe we
the
don't.
less we gather in groups, I think the safer we are.
Yeah, the hospital is
Right now.
a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my sense for a holiday party, maybe not this year, but I love the idea of Rains doing some open barn days there, particularly, I know I went several times last year with my kids for sledding. And so it was super popular last year for sledding. So I don't know if we did it on like a Saturday afternoon or something. If you did an open barn hours, and it could happen to coincide with decent sledding conditions, then you could get a really fun event where people are sledding and coming over to check out the barn and going back and forth. That could be really cool. COVID safe activity. So maybe we should plan something like that.
All we need is snow.
We need some snow. We'll
Not
get
gonna
it at some
happen before
point.
January, so.
I don't know, how would that work for, is that what you're kind of thinking, Kristen? Would it be a weekend event, or?
Yeah, I was thinking a weekend. So what we had talked about in prior years, but didn't complete was a pop-up open barn day. So people could either follow for announcements on the Conservation Commission Facebook page, the town website, or register to be notified when it happened. And then when conditions are right, we just, announce that we're going to do it. I think there'll be some, maybe it'll be slow to bring people in initially, but I feel like
Well,
once.
you could throw it on the Exeter Community Facebook page
Yep.
too.
Yep. I think we typically, well, Ginny used to forward most of our announcements there. so.
Yeah, well, I guess nobody's put anything there lately, but
Yeah.
'cause I think a lot of people take at least a glance at it,
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice.
so.
Yeah, we could do that, no problem.
And it's a pretty low lift. I mean, we have a water heater that we, one of those old percolator things, but just a water heater that we could use and powdered cocoa and, go from there.
Yeah, all right, let's do
Little
it.
fire pit.
Okay, so we can plan that. I don't know if anyone, we'll talk out to the rest of the Rain Stewardship Committee too. We've done a full moon. Does that, do we have interest in the full moon snowshoe this winter? I think we've usually done it in February, the February full moon.
Yep.
And we've done it at the golf course, Exeter Country Club. That has good parking. The advantage there is it's known parking, and then we would ski out to the Irving property, which is the end of the golf course on that peninsula out there. And I know Trevor and Allison have been involved in that event. And Bill,
Yeah.
you come, yeah.
I think we've had it 2 years.
Yeah, it's been good. So we haven't looked at full moon dates, but I would be open to doing that in February. I think that's sort of the best month for chances of snow, and January can be too cold, and by February, full moon might be a good target. What do we got? We have the internet now.
Yeah, we got the internet,
The
16th.
16th, so it'd be mid-February. And I think the school vacation is at the end of February. Is that right? Maybe that would
Yeah,
work out
February
well.
28th.
Oh, yeah, it's actually February 28th into early March. Okay, so we're well ahead of the school. So we have one more meeting to figure that out, but we could pencil something in for before.
If we do it in February, we'd have 2 more meetings, wouldn't
We'd have potentially 2 more meetings.
Yep.
we? That'd be good.
We could do it on the 12th or the 13th, on that weekend before. It's better actually to do it before the full moon because it's rises earlier, so we could do it earlier in the night without having to wait for the moon. The moon would be higher in the sky if you do it just before the full moon than at the full moon or after the full moon. That's a moon fact for everyone. Okay.
Learn something every day.
In fact, yeah.
Now I know
12,
I'm
12.
on
Because the moon rises like 15 minutes later every night, so it progresses. So if you do it a few nights earlier, I'm done.
Have you
All
noticed?
right, approval of minutes. Let's get out of here. This is our short meeting, and I'm dragging on.
Something about moons.
Yeah.
I actually do have a couple edits to this. Do you want me to step through them? I'll
Sure.
go quick. So, Mr. Mateague the spelling needs to be corrected throughout. And then on page 2, the third line, it says, there was a peer review in 2018 of the same system found to be equal if not functional. And I don't think that's accurate, so we need to have Dan re-listen to the tape there, or the audio recording there. And then,
I think it's a peer review of the same design and found it to be equally functional or
right,
something like
something along
that.
those lines. And then on page 4, the conditions that were listed. Condition number 1, erosion control pre and post construction.
Good catch, I missed that.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, I thought, I didn't catch that one. That was good. Thank you. I didn't have any comments.
Move to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that. I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Dave Short,
Yes?
Bill Campbell,
Yes.
Bever Matera,
Yes.
Andrew Koff, yes. John Clement.
Yes.
Kyle Welch.
Yes.
Tom Patterson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Has the boulder chipper been out there
The
yet?
motion
Yes.
passes. Do I do the gavel?
Two.
Anything else?
2 boulders.
Correspondence? We have a few things to discuss here briefly.
So the first one is something I shared with all of you by email. We had an email from a resident of Brentwood with concerns about a development proposed for 41A Mill Road. And they were interested in whether the Conservation Commission had concerns about that, and it sounded as though they were looking for support from the Exeter Conservation Commission in reviewing it. In discussion back and forth with him, it turned, and following the Brentwood Planning Board meeting, it sounds as though, right now the project is just in conceptual design review, so the full development proposal has not been submitted. But it sounds as though the Brentwood Planning Board does intend to invoke the regional impact threshold, which means abutting towns like Exeter that have potential to be impacted would be notified as though they were a direct abutter. And so I just wanted to bring that up because I know that there were some potential comments or concerns, and I feel like if so, we should discuss them here tonight. But more will happen with this, you know. It's kind of one of those wait and see sort of things, provided they do invoke the regional impact.
Yeah, I understood we really don't need to get involved until they do actually. They're the ones that have to invoke it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a learning curve for me. This is the first project I've been involved in that tripped that threshold, so.
One of those good rules that the city's put in that says if you're going to be affected, you can't do anything about it unless the town that is, I mean, they could just say, we're not going to worry about it. Our water supply is.
Well, I suppose at that stage then,
But I think
you could speak as a member of the public.
I talked
Yeah.
to them. They're going to do that.
And I believe the Exeter Squamish River Local Advisory Committee, because it's within the corridor, will be afforded an opportunity to weigh in on the plans when they're submitted. I think that we're best afforded that we wait until this plan is developed, because we don't know what they are. So, you know, I mean, we know I think we've all seen the conceptual plan, but, you know, could be a long ways between what the conceptual plan is and what the actual plan that will go before the planning board will be, or before DES. So.
And then the other thing I wanted to bring out, Sarah Soliday reached out. She is one of the individuals who run the Exeter Trail Race every summer on Father's Day. She was just reaching out to find out where the Conservation Commission is sitting in terms of having events on conservation land. You know, I guess in light of COVID. And so she was interested in holding an event again this year and wanted to know if there were any concerns about her moving forward with at least the planning stages of that.
Nope.
They would still approach obviously as the event gets closer, still approach the commission for approval, as they always do, but.
No, it's a good event.
Yeah, I'm supportive. I know there have been other races, and those types of events are ongoing now.
Great, I will pass that on.
Is there other business?
I have a couple things for other business.
I thought that's what those couple things were.
No, that was correspondence. I'm under 5 now.
Item 5.
Item 5. So just to update the commission, the tree ordinance that the Exeter Tree Committee worked on was adopted by the select board, so that is in play. They are working on developing a big tree scavenger hunt, which basically is just a call for individuals to report to the town any large trees that might be around, and then we can go out and have them measured and determine if they qualify for a big tree. And so the plan right now is to send basically an invitation to the local schools, and there's a flyer with information about it and a QR code that they can scan, and then they can submit the information on an online form, and then we'll go from there. So they're hoping, we have a meeting tomorrow, and so hopefully at that point we'll be able to roll it out. But it was cool. Jay Perkins and I had worked to nominate what I thought was a basswood tree out on the Morissette property. It's a really big tree, but it ended up being cottonwood. So it takes a really big tree to make a big tree qualified cottonwood. So we were kind of excited, but that kind of got the big tree bug going among the committee.
Does it have to be on public land?
No, it doesn't.
Because Bill McQueenie's got the biggest red bud I've ever seen in his yard.
So you can actually go onto the UNH site and look up what would be a qualified size for individual species.
Yeah.
And if you think you're in that range, then you notify the New Hampshire Big Tree Committee, and they'll come out and measure it.
Yeah, well, the guy who, I forget his name, the guy who wrote the book,
It's a great committee.
Oh, big tree.
that kind of pamphlet, almost. But it's a red bud like nothing I've ever seen before. Usually they don't get like this. Of course, I don't know how much Bill would want it publicized, but he's a friendly guy, so.
Yeah. Well, maybe check with him and then.
a few visitors, he wouldn't mind. So, yeah, I'll check that out though.
And so once something is nominated a big tree, every 5 years, the committee comes back out to remeasure. And so, so there would be like an ongoing measuring just to document the size change over time.
Okay.
And then just 2 more things. One, I'm putting together the town report submission for the Conservation Commission. So if you have items that you want to be sure are included in there, please reach out to me. I can send a draft around so that you can look for omissions, and then you can just email me directly without, and I'll be sure it gets added. And then lastly, we have been working as part of the Coastal Adaptation Work Group. We've been working on developing, we had an opportunity to put together a video, which is basically like a summary advertisement piece on all of the resilience-related activities the town of Exeter has put together. And so they basically developed a timeline of projects that we've been involved in, and then put together a really swanky video to go along with it. And so Liz Durfee was hired to put that together. She's coming to deliver the electronic version of that to me later this week. So I hope to be able to share that with all of you.
Very cool.
And then the back of your packet does have a workshop that you might be interested in January 20th, but we can talk about that at the next Conservation Commission meeting. But I know calendars fill quickly, so.
One other item would be, so you're potentially being full-time? Is that something we can talk about here? No.
Yeah, it's a part of the town budget proposal. No, that's why I emailed you all that.
Yeah.
No, it's a part of the town budget proposal. Dave
didn't
had
know.
proposed combining the sustainability part-time position responsibilities with my part-time position responsibilities. He spoke to the Sustainability Advisory Committee about that, and they were supportive of that as well. And so, so they put forward putting me full-time and converting my position to a conservation and sustainability coordinator, I think is what it's entitled. Thank you, Allison. And then, so the select board, right now it has made it through the budget committee review stage and will go to the select board. And assuming they move it forward as part of the town budget, if the town budget is approved in March, then it will start right after that. That's exciting.
Would a letter from this commission be helpful?
I don't know.
Well, it's all part of all part of the budget. It's within the budget.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just, it's not a separate warrant article.
It's not going to get singled out.
The town will be voting on a budget, full, Board of Selectmen will be too, but the town will be voting on a full budget, and this is, a very
Right.
small piece. I mean, I'm not even sure if anybody is going to see that in the budget.
So the selectmen aren't going to single it out, or?
I don't think so, but, who knows? I don't know what, it's going to be, it'll be a public hearing.
Yeah.
And so the public hearing is usually scheduled in January for the budget and the warrant articles, and that's, that's one time, and then the second time will be a deliberative session. But typically, I don't think this is a controversial position. It's not we're adding a position, we're moving a position from part-time to full-time, which is an increase in the budget line item for that department accordingly. But I mean, I haven't seen the full budget, but I don't think it's going to be
Okay.
I'm sure it's not going to be controversial.
I just want to make sure it happens. Yeah.
The only time is when they feel the budget is completely too big. Then they'll ask Russ Dean to cut, propose cuts or take things out or do a across the board, cut your budget all 10% or something, not that big. And then it might come up, but I didn't get the impression, I listened to the first presentation, I didn't get the impression that they were overly concerned about the increase in the budget this year.
I think I saw part of the presentation that Bob Kelly made as the chair of the budget committee to this board, and I think the budget, the town budget was about less than 2.3 or 2.4% increase.
2.3.
And that includes not just, a position, but I think it included 2 new firefighters, which,
Exactly.
and that's, that's a big chunk. So, I mean, I know last year the budget was reduced significantly because of COVID. So a lot of this budget stuff is catching up to what, was not done last year. So, I know both you and I were on the board. We like to hold the budget to about 2%. So, I think it's around there. And I haven't seen the warrant articles yet, so that's usually those are the ones that are the big number items. Those are the ones that, probably generate more discussion at the town meeting than the budget does. So.
And could potentially have a role for the commission to play because assuming the LCHIP grant gets awarded, you will have a warrant article going forward for $100,000 for Rains Barn.
Right.
And so it would be helpful in that case, I think, for commission to have information packet or someone present to speak there on deliberative session day.
Okay. Well, I guess I'd just like to state for the record that I'm supportive, and I know the whole commission is very supportive of you going full-time.
Thank you.
And so we're excited about that for the town.
Thank you.
And hope we don't lose our wedge of your time, which
No.
we're not going to, but you're going to get distracted with other things. So that's very exciting, and I think, it would be good for us to stay plugged into these budget talks in light of that warrant article, potential warrant article. So that's a good point.
Just curiosity, they're changing the title though from National Resource Person to Conservation.
I like the natural resource, but
It'd be a mouthful.
it is a mountain. As long as they spell conservation in capital letters, that's okay.
Excellent. Okay, any other business?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay,
I don't think you have to do a roll.
we don't have to roll call. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Allison.
8:15.
You pretty much
Have a good night.
closed up your place.
Thanks for tuning in.
That's, we got the other day.
That's impressive, 8:15.
We did it. 20 minutes.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.